The official Mathpad documentation walks you through the steps of modifying the firmware for your needs. Start by Googling Mathpad documentation and picking the top result. Then go to the page named Firmware Manual and scroll down to the section named Setting Up Your Development Environment. Here, there are 3 steps for you to follow. Step 1 is cloning the Mathpad repository to your computer. Step 2 is installing the QMK build environment. And step 3 is pointing QMK to the Mathpad repository. Once these 3 steps have been completed, you are ready to modify the firmware. In your preferred editor, open the Mathpad repository. What we're going to be doing today is replacing one of the existing symbols on the Mathpad with the aleph symbol. So in order to do that, we're going to start by going into the symbol definitions of the Mathpad firmware. Start by opening the firmware folder, going into the Mathpad folder, key maps, symbols. In this symbols folder, we have many files. There's the calculus symbols, there's the comparison symbols, there's the Greek symbols. We're going to add our aleph symbol to the miscellaneous symbols file. This file contains a bunch of symbol definitions, and we're just going to copy paste the bottom one and start modifying it. So let's start by giving it a name. We're defining the aleph symbol, so the name should be symbol underscore aleph in all caps. We're also gonna have to give it the lower case name in here. The first thing to define is the Unicode representation, and that's this bit here. So let's open Google and search for aleph Unicode. The first result is usually fine, and here we go. This is the code that we're looking for. This is the Unicode representation of aleph, and this is the actual symbol aleph. So let's copy paste the Unicode representation and plug it into our symbol definition. And for good measure, we will also copy paste the symbol itself and put it in the documentation string right here. Then we got to define the LaTeX code for aleph, and that is simply /aleph. You can find this online if you're not sure about the LaTeX code for your symbol. One thing to note is that anytime you have a slash in a string, you need 2 of them. That is a technicality, but it's worth remembering. Next, we define the Microsoft Office equation editor version of this symbol. And since it's just a simple symbol, we're not going to define it in any special way, so it is null. For the LibreOffice equation editor definition, we're also going to simply put it to null. What this means is that if we type the symbol aleph in Microsoft Office equation editor or LibreOffice equation editor, we're just going to get the Unicode symbol, nothing else. Next, we're going to have to add this symbol definition to the header file. So let's open up miscellaneous symbols.h and add a new section. I'm going to call that my symbols. Here we're simply going to define one line. So let's just copy paste one of the existing ones and give it the name here as we gave it in the C file, which was symbol underscore aleph. And that's it. We've now defined a new symbol, and we're now going to move on to assigning this symbol to one of the Mathpad keys. Let's leave these symbol definitions behind and move to the file named keymap.c. This is a very long file, but we're just going to make a couple of small changes. The first thing we're going to do is add a new key code for the symbol that we just defined. The key codes are defined here, and we're going to add it right after the Greek symbols. So let's make a new section and call it my symbols. And we're adding now a key code for the aleph symbol, so we're going to name it kc underscore aleph. We then have to map this key code to the symbol itself, so we just scroll down a little bit, down to the next section. And in this large switch case structure, we're going to add a section called my symbols, like before. And all we really need to do is copy paste one of the existing switch cases and replace the key code with the key code we just defined, which is kcalif, and replace the return with the symbol that we defined, which is symbol alif. The final thing to do is to map this key code to one of the keys, so that when we click that key, it types the key code alif, which types the symbol alif. So let's scroll down, further down to this section called key layout structure definition. It's around line 338. In this section, you have a block like this for each physical key on the Mathpad. Right, so this is key 00, which is the top left key, and here you have the definition for alpha, not equal, an accent, beta, etc. So what I think we will do today is simply replace the letter alpha with the new alif symbol that we just defined. So all we have to do is say, I don't want alpha to be typed, I want alif to be typed. And that's really all you have to do. So let's save. And all the modifications we need to do have been done. So we can move on to building our firmware. I'm going to open up a terminal, and that's going to be the QMK MSys terminal because I'm on Windows. If you're on Linux or on Mac OS, it's going to be slightly different, but you're still going to be using QMK. We're currently in the Mathpad directory, so we're going to have to move into the firmware directory first of all. And all you got to do here is type make. So if you're making this firmware for a US layout, that's all you have to do. But if you're making it for any other layout, for example, French, you're going to have to give the layout modifier and call it French. For example, French, or layout equal Dvorak if you are going to use your Mathpad with Dvorak. But for today, let's just do simple make. Click enter. The compile directory is right under the firmware folder, right here. And you can see that now we have a file called mathpad_mp1a _usnc version 1.00 uf2. That's our new file that we just compiled. So if you upload that to the Mathpad, we should be able to type alif by clicking the alpha symbol. All we have to do now is flash the Mathpad with the new firmware. So let's just start by putting it in firmware upload mode. Do that by holding the reset button for 1 second and releasing. And that opens up a folder where we're going to put the new firmware. So let's go to the compiled firmware. Let's find it in the file explorer. And let's just drag it over. And when it's been copied over, this file folder will automatically close. And that should be all. So let's just open a text editor and see what happens when we type alpha. There we go. No alpha, but alif. In this video, we did a pretty simple modification, but there's actually a lot more you can modify in the Mathpad firmware so that you can modify your Mathpad just to your liking. And all you have to do is go to the firmware manual page in the technical reference on the official documentation. Currently, there's not a whole lot of information. There's how to replace a symbol, which is what we just did. And there's a section on adding like a multi-tap symbol. But in the future, there will be a lot more information here so that if you need to make advanced modifications, you should be able to just go into this webpage and find all of the information you need.